It's Friday night, everybody. You know what that means. It's Friday night. Let's have some fun. Let's get together and play a ton.
Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm John.
And we're
Friday Night Games.
We want to immerse you into our love of the hobby by educating and entertaining you through our board gaming adventures.
This is our last podcast, so we sincerely hope that you enjoyed the content that we've created over the last 2.5 years. Our content's going to remain hosted, so you can always binge and catch up or not.
Or yeah, you should binge and catch
up. You should.
Just don't listen to the first 20 episodes. Just
listen from Nightmare on.
Yeah. Even that Nightmare wasn't as great as what we produced, but
Right.
Listen from Nightmare on.
Nightmare was just funny.
Yeah. We'll reminisce of it here. All right, so please support our local game stores, and those which may or may not ship across Canada. We think they do, but we don't actually know. Brimstone Games, Tabletop Renaissance, CG Realm, and Area 42 Outposts. They're all fantastic, and they've all helped support us in some way over the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, I think they all do. At least 3 of them do.
Yeah, I don't know if I think CG Realm does. I think they're the only ones I don't know if they do or not. But Brimstone definitely does, and Area 42 that's their way they sell. So
yeah,
there you go. Now you know the ins and outs.
There you go. On today's show, we're going to give a retrospective on the last 2.5 years. We're going to discuss what went right, what went wrong, and we're going to discuss how things improved and what we think may still need improving.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
And I guess we're going to do that by going through different parts or elements of how you make a podcast or content.
Right.
Which that will include scripting and social media and content. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so why are we doing this?
Well, we mentioned it earlier that the Friday Night Games podcast is coming to an end. So today's the last podcast, which is December 31st, 2021, and that's why we're doing it.
How do you feel, John? How do you feel about ending it?
I feel good.
Okay, why?
I'm
really putting you on the spot there.
No, you're good.
Okay, number one, you don't have to sit in this cold basement to podcast, because right now you're wearing a toque and a winter jacket, and you're actually shivering a little bit.
I'm just cold. Yeah, that's the main reason. No, I think after 2.5 years of doing podcasting, I think I just need to spend my time and energy doing other things. So I started school, so I want to focus on that. This year really allowed me to take a look at my mental health and really try to prioritize what I need to do to, be a better father, husband, manager. And, to sit and come up with content every week was getting more and more difficult to stay relevant. And, because our podcast, if you've been listening, isn't be like, oh, we played this game, this is what we thought.
Which is what a lot of podcasts are.
Right. So our podcast is, we think of a general theme and how can we incorporate a theme to the games that we're playing. And it's tough to come up with fresh new ideas that aren't repetitive or redundant with everything else that's going on.
You're such an artist, because we could totally repeat stuff.
Right.
But at the same time, everything's going to sound like we were repeating ourselves.
Right.
So fucking sub pump.
I won't miss the sub pump.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. Kevin, leave this sub pump in here. We will not miss this sub pump going off while we're recording. Where's my train of thought?
You said something about repeating.
Oh, yeah. You're a true artist, mainly because, if we were doing the same, because we could have. And I even came up with that in our 2021 plan, where we're like, we should repeat some of the topics over and over. But at the same time, we're going to repeat our conversations over and over, because I know the way me and you think. We're going to be like, remember that one time? And we're like, oh, yeah, we discussed that the last time we did this topic.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be as exciting, and it wouldn't be great for our listeners either, to be honest, which we'll talk about in a little second about how we grew.
Yeah, and I think, too, there's so many great board game podcasts out there, and there's some new and emerging ones coming out. I just think, it's our time to step away, and we can focus on other things. We can play the games that we want to play, and if we want to create content for Instagram or Twitter or whatever, we can.
This being our final episode, I can say whatever the hell I want. I actually think we produce very high quality, great content.
I agree.
Especially when I compare it to other people. I just think we just don't have the market for people to listen. I mean, I hope you do listen to this and you're like, wow, this is actually really good. Why did they quit? Well, we quit because we're not basically getting any money from this, and it takes a lot of effort.
Right.
You're saying, honestly, during COVID, you actually had a lot of time to improve the podcast and like learn and try and make it better. And then I was taking on a lot of the burden of like, hey, I'm going to write out the stuff. But the minute like you're getting busier with life, it's hard for me to take on even more, right? So I'm like, and just like you need to improve with your, you mentioned a bunch of things. You mentioned school and managing, and I need to improve as an employee too, and I need to, this isn't my real job. My real job makes me money, and I need to be good at that to continue getting money. And I am good at my job, believe it or not, right, boss?
Right. Right.
But I am good at my job, but I do need to like still focus on that too.
Yeah.
Right. This isn't our career. If it was, we would probably be pretty popular TV celebrities with abs and six packs and a ton of muscle.
Yeah.
Because that's what they'd force us to do to be popular, I think.
All right. Cool. Let's dive in.
Okay. So retrospectives, and as a computer programmer, and this is actually becoming popular within all workplaces. Basically, you have like work from a set period of time. So as a programmer, we have 2-week sprints, meaning that we have 2 weeks to get done a certain amount of tasks. Well, at the end of those tasks, we sit and reflect. So we actually have a whole meeting. And in that meeting, we discuss what went well, what went wrong, and how we can improve. So we're going to do that for the following topics. So first one is the scripted side of our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is the technical side of our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
The third one is the organizational side of our podcast, which is kind of the scripted side, but goes more towards what you were doing. The fourth one is the social media aspect of our podcast. And finally, just some, this is our advice. Would you recommend doing it? But we'll talk about that after. All right, so let's start with the first one. So the scripted side of our podcast. So let's just go through a little bit of history first. How did we start, John?
We decided one day that we were going to create a board game with you, myself, Mustache Matt, Novi, Bill. And we came up with an idea, and we were like playtesting it. But we wanted a way to get ourselves out there if and when we decided to get this board game out. And we came across the indie showcase, not the indie showcase, but
it's like the Board Game Geek indie game forums. They have a lot of competitions for new designers. It's actually really cool. If you're a new designer, you should definitely do it.
Yeah.
They give you like a set of rules and you make a board game. So we came across that.
Yeah. So then we printed, there were a lot of print and plays. So we printed off a couple games. We started playing them. We're like, hey, this is actually pretty cool. Like, these are indie developers creating games. And then we decided like, oh, we should talk about it because, I came with the idea like, hey, if we do like maybe a podcast or something, it would get us into
the research,
the networking. And that's just kind of where it started. And then we played a game called, what's called like Secret Agent. Was our first one.
The Tale of Gil and Ennis.
That was our second episode.
But that was actually the first one we played.
Okay.
And
I don't remember.
Yeah, the second one we played was, our first episode was Secret Agent.
Yeah.
The second episode was Tale of Gil and Ennis. So it was actually reverse. And we'll get into the technical side. There's a technical reason why that happened.
I forgot, yeah. But it was fun because we played these games and they were actually really cool to play because they weren't they're not well known at all. But it was really nice to be like, reach out to the creators like, hey, we did a podcast on your game. Here it is. And they were like very appreciative that we did that.
And it gave us a ton of research too.
Right.
So at the same time, it wasn't just for social media or like just to play these indie games and make those connections. It was actually to do a lot of research into what's out there. Is our game out there?
Right.
So we started doing the media side of it, and we're like, well, we could produce a game, which we had. Well, it's not really produced because we're missing a lot of things. We're missing art, rules, all the hard stuff that no one wants to do. Although your art was killer.
We have an idea.
Honestly, we have a store, and there's some of the art John redid, and it is actually amazing. I actually own 2 of the shirts because I love them so much.
I don't know if I deleted those off our store.
The Cthulhu was amazing.
Yeah.
I have that shirt.
I think I took it off the store.
What? Those were the best shirts.
I know. I'm sorry.
Those were better than like shirts you could buy at conventions. But people don't know what it's from, and they're like, "What is this?"
Yeah,
so
Thank you.
Yeah, you're good. You're a good cartoon artist. You missed your calling.
Yeah.
And that's why we're ending. Man.
There's something I'm supposed to do that I just remembered that I told someone I would work on like 2 months ago. Wah, wah. Sorry.
So that's how we started, right?
Yeah.
And how did those podcasts go?
They were absolute trash.
You can listen to them.
Yeah, if you want.
I actually had an idea at one point where I'm like, we should re-release them, but like have us voice overing like everything that
Like
went.
one of those, what are they called? The Blu-rays.
Oh, director's cut
Not
or
the
like
director's cut. Commentary.
commentary. Yeah.
Commentary.
Yeah, I thought that would be.
I don't want to torture ourselves and listen to those again.
I don't even want to torture our listeners. That's why you wanted to take them down at one point, and I'm like, no. You need this. That's probably why no one listens to us. They listen to like the current episode, and then they listen to like one of the old ones. And they're like, what the hell is this?
What happened?
But yeah, it's all fun.
Yeah, and at some point it went from 5 to 2. There's 5 of us, and now there's just me and you and I.
That's really sad. But me and you have some of the best chemistry.
Yeah.
But let's go into how that happened. So we know they don't like doing work.
Yeah.
We know that was becoming more effort than they liked.
Yeah.
And they didn't like that we started implementing rules.
Okay.
So a lot of it really came down to the fact where I'm like, well, hey, I don't want you just going on there and rambling. So if you do go back and listen to the first 10, you're going to hear Mustache Matt rambling. And we didn't cut it. We just left it in. And it's actually like terrible. Like I think he like contradicts himself several times in that session because he wasn't prepared. Right? And that's a huge thing. So and then remember I started the hand signaling and everyone hated that. I'm sure they complained behind my back. I'm sure they're like 100%. So there's 5 of us, and how do you control 5 people?
It's hard to control 2 of us.
Right. You like I still put my hand up sometimes when I want to interject. So do you, right? And it's like that's where the signaling came from. It's like, hey, let me get a quick point in, or I have a quick joke. But they did not want like that.
No, and it got frustrating because I think the biggest change for us at that point was it was the first episode. Where
man, yeah.
Where Bill and Novi were like fighting, or Bill made I don't remember what the comment was, but Bill made a comment about Novi and how he was playing and his style of playing or something like that, and it actually like really upset Novi.
Right.
To the point like I had to remove the whole section from the podcast, and it actually like just like affected their friendship for a little while.
Did. I think it still even affects their friendship.
Yeah, and and then it just wasn't creating that vibe and experience that we wanted to talk about games. It was just like, it wasn't. It was a good idea to start, but it wasn't executed well because we didn't have parameters and guidelines and expectations.
Yeah, the original idea was that we would play the game and record it,
right,
and then add in. It was kind of like we were just using Will Wheaton's tabletop to kind of influence us.
Yeah.
And so we're like, oh, if we just record us playing, and then we could splice in or cut out whatever later, it'll be great. But it really wasn't good, because you didn't understand what was going on.
Right.
So
especially when it's a game that no one knows about too, right? So
right, and then we had like Bill and Novi going after each other, and you're like, well, if you have no idea what they're going after each other about, it just sounds like these two are bickering. So. Yeah. It sounds like we have like a fight, a recorded fight. Anyways. Well, that turned into me saying we need to write down notes.
Right.
And then that really turned off everyone too, because then that was making it homework.
Right.
So I'm like, hey, you all need to come in prepared. We need to play this game, and we're all going to sit down and write notes. And they didn't want to do that.
Yeah, and I think too, because what we were doing is we were playing a game. So we'd come over Friday nights, we would play a game, and then come and podcast. And podcasting was taking up more of the night than actually playing a game. And I think for them that wasn't ideal, right? So when you're coming over to play board games, it's meant to be social. It's our time together as friends, and it started becoming a job. And I understand why they backed out.
Yeah, I get it too. I mean, on that note, we actually had to change how our game nights were. At one point, we took a step back and we're like, we're not going to podcast on Fridays. We're just going to play a game. And I actually took on a lot of burden of learning a game like every week,
right,
for like 2 years.
That's a lot.
Which is a lot of work. And then I think at one point I got fed up because like people are just dictating to me the games I want to play, and I'm like, I have my own shelf of games. Let me choose what I want. And then they would get mad when I'm like, oh, I'm choosing this game, and then they just like, well, like I'm doing the rules, so you can't really argue with me unless you want to do it. And no one. Sometimes people would step up. You would step up. Occasionally they would step up, but most of the time not. Right.
Right.
But anyways, yeah. So COVID happened. And we found ourselves with a lot less friends. And I mean, it kind of moved in the right direction of podcasting because then you started learning, you started reading books on podcasting just to get like advice to make our content better.
Yeah.
And they kind of started like, hey, create a single story element and move on from there. And so we kind of started doing that. That's where our best stuff really starts to shine. 2020 April-ish, like our stuff just gets getting really, really good.
Right.
And even that stuff's not even the greatest, right? So it starts getting good there. And that's because we start taking a theme and we're like, we're just going to talk about the theme and we're going to put everything around that episode. We'll play games of that theme and it'll be great. And it was.
Right.
And then we actually started getting bigger at that point too. At that point, we were getting free games, which we never even dreamed of. Like, what? We're getting real free games here?
Yeah. And super grateful that was an opportunity provided to us. So
yeah, it was amazing. And then October that year, I started adding in humor. I started writing in humor. I kind of got inspired, and I'm like, well, how do comedians do this? And comedians do the same thing. They always have a writing session about their jokes, right? Like they want to have the best jokes, so they're going to sit and think about them. And that's what I did. So if you listen to our stuff in October of 2020, which was like, that was like a really high point for us. It is like some of those jokes are completely written. They're really funny. And just as a note, John sometimes will just show up and read, like John doesn't always prepare 100%. And so like I'm writing these jokes and John's like knocking them out of the park. I'm like, wow, that's really good. That's really good considering like it's in my head, right? Not necessarily yours. So
yeah, sometimes we're just in sync, you know?
Yeah. Well, we've been doing that. We were at that point we were doing it for about a year.
Right.
And we are a year and a bit. And I think that we kind of understood how to do those things.
Yep.
And then I had a great idea, last game standing. So that was fun.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I wish we could have done it to the grand scheme in which it was envisioned.
If you want to hear about our grand scheme of envisioning it, listen to Last Game Standing Series 1, Episode 1 of that, and you'll hear us ramble about how we could get anyone to play the games.
Yeah, no, not that. I'm just talking about like when we were envisioning like doing it like on like YouTube, like it was like a video thing. Like,
right.
Like, you know.
It would have been amazing, but unfortunately, you know, it's hard enough for us to get people to play the games. So imagine being like, it's going to be on YouTube, and it would have been amazing.
Yeah.
And just as you know, I'm sure everyone's like, oh, well, Last Game Standing, we're going to take it. No. We gave that to the Canadian podcasting group, so it's theirs.
Yeah, and then, you know, after the Last Game Standing, it was kind of COVID made everything a really slow year. So like 2020 and 2021 was very slow for board games in general.
I think 2020 was fast for board games. I think 2021 was slow.
Yeah, and so like not a lot of stuff was coming out.
Right.
A lot of the Kickstarter stuff that we were expecting to, you know, to get and do content, I still haven't received.
Still don't have, yeah.
And no fault at all to the publishers. It's all just what's going on in the world, and it was getting very hard to stay current with what's coming out, and it was getting harder and harder to think of new and fresh ideas to talk about on the show. And it was just like we were really racking our brains every week to come up with a fresh idea to sit and record.
Yeah, we still had some great stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, so like I feel, and this is where, okay, like what did we do well? I think how we improved over the last 2.5 years has been amazing.
Yep.
If you listen to this podcast and you listen to the previous ones, you'll see that our stuff is gold compared to where we began.
Oh, yeah.
But even if you compare us to current podcasters, I think you'll still find that we're very good.
Yeah, I agree. What I think we did really well is we took a step back and we really checked in with ourselves, and we're like, yeah, it's cool that we can sit and talk an hour and a half about a board game, but I don't want to sit and listen to us for an hour and a half talk about board game. I'd rather sit for a half an hour, 45 minutes, and talk about something that's interesting that has board games included in it. And I think that's where, when we decided to do that, that's kind of where it shifted for us, because we were doing something a little bit different.
Right.
And we were able to do it creatively, where, we can talk about dinosaur. I'm just looking at your shelf here. Like, we talk about dinosaurs and what dinosaurs we loved growing up as kids, but like, oh, remember when we played Dinosaur Island and all that kind of stuff, and like how it tied into the theme. I think we did that very well.
Right. I think, yeah. And like you said, because we didn't tie ourselves to the show has to be an hour, right? We're just like, we're just going to produce, and whatever we produce, maybe it's a 20-minute podcast.
Yeah.
And maybe it's an hour. Sometimes it was an hour because it was so interesting, or we had a guest.
Right.
Right. So that's usually how that went down. What could we have done better, though, for scripting and, creating our podcasts?
I think it's just, obviously when we started, like, be more prepared. I think it'd be nice to do it together, where we sit and write things together, but we just didn't have the time to do that. Yeah, just being better prepared and not ad-libbing. Well, ad-libbing's fine sometimes, but I think just, being prepared and really knowing and understanding what we're talking about. Because, when we think of a theme, sometimes there's a lot more research that we had to put into it that I think we probably could have done a little bit more on.
For sure. And as a really cool note, when we had guests, I think someone commented we're the only people who do this. We actually gave the guests the script. So they knew, they weren't surprised by the questions that are going to be thrown at them. And we didn't do that always. We kind of learned that. So in August and September of 2020, we had some guests on, and we're like, yeah, they were good, but they really sometimes would ramble too. And then we're like, oh, you know what? We should do what we do. So I actually would spend extra time writing, not necessarily a script, but like, here are the questions we're going to ask you so you can prepare your answers. And that actually turned out really well too. Like, if you listen to the interview with Jamie Stegmaier, he had the questions I was going to ask him ahead of time so he could prepare that. I think I don't know. He seemed like he wasn't taken aback by it, but he I don't know. It's sort of like one of those things like, why am I doing this? But I felt like I don't want to surprise anyone, and I don't want to throw anyone off guard. Like, this is what we're going to talk about.
Right.
This is what I want to know. So we did a lot of good things. We got better. Things we didn't do so well, I agree. We probably should have researched a lot more, because the things we did write together were hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the stalking stuff for video.
Oh, yeah.
We wrote that together.
Yeah.
And what's that other video we did?
The game.
Yeah. That was written together too. And that was actually good, because we'd be in a session, and then I'd be like you would think of something, and I'm like, what if we did this? And then you would play off of it, and then all of a sudden we have this like golden script. Like, it was real good.
Mm-hmm.
We just suck at video editing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not going to get into that right now.
Yeah. All right. So, okay, let's move on to the second topic. So,
right.
The technical side of our podcast. So, we started with what?
I had this. So, when I was in a band, I had this recorder that we would put in the middle of the room, and it has like microphones on both sides, so you can kind of get like a surround sound-esque recording. So I would record our practices so I can listen back and be like, okay, I need to do this, or we need to do this better, or whatever. So it's kind of my way of, like sports people, they review the plays or they review the game or whatever. That's what I would do with the band that I was in. So I had this old audio recorder, and I was like, well, it can be used for this purpose as well, but I apparently forgot how it worked. And it didn't work. It sucked.
That's our first episode that we actually recorded, The Tale of Gil and Ennis, and nothing came out from it. It was actually really terrible.
Right.
But that's okay. That was a learning experience.
Yeah.
And then, but then that moved up to so because you have a music background, you actually had recording equipment.
Yep.
So you had a mic, and you had whatever this thing is in front of me.
Well, we bought this.
No, but you had another one. You had the one
yeah.
with 2 inputs.
Right.
This one has 4.
The interface, yeah.
The interface, thank you. Yeah, the USB interface. So we moved on to that, and then it started coming out really good.
Mm-hmm.
But we can only record 2 people at a time, and there was 5 of us.
Tough.
So that was a problem. So then we all chipped in and bought this beautiful, very expensive user interface, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Behringer. They didn't give us any money to say that.
Yeah.
But Behringer.
It works. Does what it's supposed to do. I might take it later. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so I think that our audio setup is amazing.
Yep.
So we moved into a very nice audio setup, and you can hear the difference probably after the first. I think we got it pretty quickly. It was maybe after about a month or so.
Yeah, we got it fairly.
Yeah, so if you listen to like the first 2 or 3, and then you'll notice the audio difference like right away.
Yeah.
And then someone recommended we should do streaming.
Yeah, I don't know who that was.
Yeah, I'm not gonna throw him under the bus. I know who it was.
I honestly don't even know who.
Oh,
it was.
that's good. I won't even say.
Okay.
But yeah, someone recommended streaming to us.
And we tried it.
We did. And we were doing it for a long time too.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed the streaming aspect of it.
Mhm.
The only problem is it was just so much work.
So let me put down the work real quick.
Yeah.
The work was we had to learn another game.
Yeah.
So now we had to learn 2 games a week, which actually sometimes turned out okay because I would learn the game on Sunday, we'd play it on the stream on Monday, and then we'd play the same game
on Friday.
So we're actually playing a lot more games.
Right.
So that was actually really helpful.
Yeah, and it was a good learning experience because it allowed us to work on the like video side of content creating. That it's something that we weren't totally on board or interested in, but allowed us to upgrade our cameras for pictures, allowed us to upgrade. We got some streaming webcams, lav
Lighting.
mics, lighting, and then it also allowed us to connect with our audience in a really cool way. And we met some really awesome people through Twitch. So Janelle, for example,
Marshall Cyborg.
Marshall Cyborg, was huge part of that. And I think I liked streaming. It was just
Lucho AB
Lucho
too.
AB, yep. I like the streaming aspect of it. I just think that doing podcasts, streaming, Instagram, Twitter, website, like every day was just like too much.
Yeah, we were doing
Too quick.
a lot of work. I feel like when we started doing the streaming, we needed more help.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Kevin. Kevin started editing our podcasts, which was huge for us in January 2020. That was like game changing for us because then John was doing all the editing before, but after that, John and I could focus on content, and that made a huge difference.
Kevin, we are forever in your debt.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll send you a Commander deck. I mean, you will play every week or something. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But that was huge. That was honestly huge. And then when we did streaming, I was like, we need another Kevin.
Yeah.
Because like we were doing everything. I remember I was saving the video and I was like uploading it, and I'm like, well, I'd love to edit it, which I did edit some of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I don't have time for this. I'm like, if I want to like see my family, I need to like figure something out.
Yeah.
And we did kind of do shortcuts, and it did lead into some really good things. It let us connect with even more people over COVID, because then people started wanting to come on our show. Actually, our streaming show ended up being a stepping stone to the bigger streaming shows. It was like, here, you're a smaller developer and you want to demo your game. Go to Friday Night Games. They're small, and they will get you all incorporated. And then a week later, you will be on a bigger show demoing your game. So, which is fine.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that it was a really awesome way to connect with like game designers. And what was the gentleman's name? I'm good. Was it Bjorn?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Bjorn,
That was such a disaster, but yes.
Yeah. Is that who we played with?
Yes.
Okay. We weren't supposed to play with him, right?
No.
Okay. Yeah. but Bjorn, we were using Sweden.
Right.
And it was like.
Oh, we had
3 a.m. where he was.
technical difficulties.
Yeah, but it was really cool to like sit and play with someone across the world on our stream, and it was awesome.
I actually felt that was actually going to make us really big.
Yeah.
And then didn't, because when we were about to stream that, we had like 30 plus people in our stream, which was huge.
Yeah.
And then we had technical difficulties, and then it dropped to like 2.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, story of our life.
So it's okay. It was just learning experience, and it was a lot of fun because I really like connecting with designers and being like, how did you? And when we played Connor Wake, when we played Umbrevia with Connor Wake,
right, that was amazing
and just
too.
Like hearing how he came up with the game and
how he thinks differently
about
moves, it was kind of neat.
It was like super informative, and I think if I were to do anything again and we did streaming, I feel like I would just want to do that, like sit with like new designers who are designing games that for publishers like Pandasaurus, and really just get like how was this game created?
Yeah,
Show
give
me how
us
to play
give
it.
us the historical details of this
Yeah.
game. Like, we get how the game plays, right?
Right.
People are gonna like it. They're gonna watch other content creators for that, but give us the deep details.
Yeah. So I think like if I were to do another stream, I feel like that's what I would focus on, and
Right.
like still play the game over Tabletopia or Tabletop Simulator or whatever with the creator,
Right.
But like ask the important questions. You know what I mean?
Right. And then we ended streaming.
Yep. we clearly don't like to do work, so
By Sub Pump.
Yeah.
Last time you'll be on this show.
it's not even raining out. What the hell?
I don't know. There's always water being pumped in my house, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we ended. It was becoming a lot of work.
Yeah.
So it was like every Monday. You would have to put your kids to bed or somehow figure out how to get out of your house. And then I would spend like an hour to 2 hours setting up everything.
Yeah.
So that was getting a lot to handle. Plus, we'd be learning 2 games a week. Or sometimes we'd be learning 2 games a week. Most of the time, we'd just be playing. Like, we'd be doing a lot of work.
Right.
So it wasn't really advantageous for us. And for nothing, too. It's not like we got a ton out of that other than meeting a lot of great people.
Right.
Yeah. We tried video, too. Around the same time we did streaming, because we started upgrading all our stuff for streaming,
Mhm.
and that actually enabled us to make some pretty decent videos, like our stocking stuff for video.
Yep.
And the game video, the game advertising video, which was hilarious.
Yep.
So we did a couple good things. It's just that I feel like you know when you're on a TV production, you have a group of people, you have a bunch of people doing all these things. We only had me and you, and we had limited time with our
Right.
work schedules and everything else we had to do. Like podcasting came first. I think we made sure of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else was like a secondary thing. And it's like, well, if we're going to do video, we need to cut podcasting. And that was almost like, well, that's kind of what we're good at.
Right.
So we're not going to do that
Yeah, I think we try to do too much too quick
without enough resources.
without resources. Yeah, I mean it's tough. It's tough to do everything, and for those content creators who can do it and make time to do it, I envy you. I don't know how you do it. For me too, like focusing on my mental health and stuff. I'm in the process of figuring out if I have ADHD. So being diagnosed as an adult, and one of the big things that was like a red flag for me is like I would get really gung ho with something like really quick, and I'm like all in, and then something happens, and I'm just like, nah, I'm bored now, and then I'll drop it. And I think that's what happened with video. I think our problem is we try to do things that are too different
Yeah.
than everyone else, right? So we want to, being Canadian content creators, it's tough because, in my opinion, social media limits our reach as Canadian.
But also we're two normal dudes.
Right.
So we don't have the reach or marketing that a lot of other people could have.
Right.
Or there's already 2 normal dudes already doing things.
Right. Which there is.
Yeah, for sure.
So we were trying to, let's take board game content and how can we make it different in a way that is entertaining, funny, and people want to see it. And I think we were putting a lot of pressure on ourselves to be so out of the box that it just became too hard to create that content that we envisioned for us to be great.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think like our vision was there and we had a really good vision. I just think that because it's only me and you, it's really hard.
It's hard to execute.
Yeah, like it's hard to execute because we don't have enough resources. Our podcast became really good because we have Kevin.
Right.
If we didn't have Kevin, we probably would be burnt out doing it too.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Kevin.
Yeah, you're the best. But doing the video, it's like we didn't have all we needed was like one other person. Don't you remember I reached out to Mustache Matt and I'm like, "Hey guys, I just need someone to help out." And then it was just like crickets. And then like someone's like, and then Matt's like, "Yeah, I'll do it for sure." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then I like sent him like, "Hey, I need you to edit this." And he like never did. And I'm like, "Well, I mean, this isn't his job.
Yeah.
He's not getting paid for this. He's clearly just being nice." I'm like, "I'm just going to pretend like I never did it."
Right.
And then everything just kind of folded because me and you did not have the time to focus on that.
Yeah.
Our podcast was actually getting a lot of reach and was becoming very popular at that time too. So it's like, hold on. So this is getting popular. Why we should just focus on this because we're
Right.
good at it.
Exactly.
Rather than trying to do all these things. Like it just doesn't make any sense. If we had more people, sure.
Sure.
If we were getting paid to do this,
Sure.
but we're not. So
And for me, it's not about getting paid. It's not about getting games. It was just, am I enjoying doing this aspect of it? And I wasn't.
right. Well, and I'll be honest, I was actually always enjoying it up until the point where I started taking on a lot more work.
Right.
And I think that was only in the last couple of months, and I feel like that's probably where I started not enjoying it as much.
Fair enough.
But okay, so that is the technical side. So what do we do well?
We got the right equipment.
We got an editor.
Got an
Who's
editor.
our best friend.
We tried different avenues
Right.
to see what we liked.
Agreed.
And we quickly made decisions to hone in on what we were good at.
Right. And we adapted. We actually
adapted.
did figure out what we were good at.
Right.
We are actually very good at comedy, and it shows in a lot of our podcasts. Not this one, but but a lot of the other ones it does. We are I think we're entertaining. We have different voices in the audience too. We're not
Right.
like the normal board game podcast. And I think that really made us stand out.
Yeah. I think our biggest bread and butter comedy thing we did was our stocking stuffer video though. That's gold.
Really, I think the Halloween one, the Halloween podcast,
And the Halloween podcast
that was so
is
funny.
too.
I thought that was so. I thought I was at the height of my writing there, and there's like a couple episodes in a row which are just bananas
Yeah.
funny. Like even you were reading it, and you're like, I just can't get through this, Matt. Like, what are you writing here?
Yeah.
What went wrong?
Like I said before, I think we did too much. It was like Target coming to Canada, too much, too quick.
Yeah.
And
Target coming to Canada.
And
Too many items on the shelf,
yeah,
and we had no idea what to pick.
Yeah, it was just too much, too quick. I got overwhelmed very easily with it, and at the same time, because we were doing all these things, we were getting a lot of games sent to us. So it's like, how the hell are we supposed to learn all these games, enjoy playing these games, and create content when it's like I can't ever remember the rules to these games the day after we play it, and it just like overwhelmed me to the sense where I'm like, I put my back up and I'm just like, I just want to focus on
Right.
what we were good at.
So I mean that shows you that we were successful. The minute people start trusting us with their product, I think that's
Yes.
very important. Now, how could we have improved that? And I think I tried to ask for help.
Yep.
But I think my one problem was asking for help at the wrong places. I'm asking the people who already kind of let us down and are like didn't want to do it to
Right.
help us when I should have been trying to look I should have been trying to look through all our
Yeah.
internet sources.
Fiverr.
Well, but I mean, I could have just thrown it out there on like Twitter, and you
Yeah.
could have thrown it on Instagram. Like, we're looking for these people to be part of our content.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why we didn't. We just.
I think it's you don't have money to pay people.
Oh yeah, right. That's right. Yeah.
Do work for free.
Because we
For
do.
us.
How do you feel about spending money? Because we spend money.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, but I think like asking for help, because I feel like we could have got some sort of person to come on and help us and either be on the show or whatever. Like I would have given up being on the show to just write and do other things. I would have reshuffled my own responsibilities to keep it going.
Yeah.
That's how involved I was, right? But I think I just didn't ask the right people. And I was just like, well, I could trust people I know, and like really I learned I can't. Actually, that's one thing I learned is that like I could trust you. You proved yourself, through thick and thin, man. You're gonna be here.
Yeah.
You're gonna be here for me. Thank you. And I clearly showed that for you. But the rest are just like to work. I'm out of here. Let me run. So
It's all good.
I mean, it happens, right? You can't expect everyone to want to do this. You got to be kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so improvement. We definitely improved through the whole thing, and I feel like if I were to change something, I would have maybe only focused on one thing.
Yeah.
Or like we're trying to do a lot of social media. I think we should have just abandoned Twitter.
Oh yeah, that's a cesspool.
Yeah, it's terrible. Although we did meet all the Canadian people through that, so
True.
that did turn out to be very good.
True.
Okay, the organizational side of our podcast. So this is like how our podcast started and what it turned into. We kind of already answered a little bit of this.
Yeah.
I said at first we were just talking about games we played, and we were doing the original indie game developer stuff that we talked about a minute ago. And then we started going to themes. So when we started doing that, we just started playing like every game possible. We're like, hey, we're going to do roll and write. Let's play every roll and write we can get our hands on. And then that led into podcasting. We kind of actually mentioned this too, playing and podcasting in the same day. That's when we started losing people. And then me and you decided that we're just going to podcast one night and play Fridays to kind of bring back our friends. But we kind of lost our friends at that point. So
Yeah. I don't think so. I think it's just I think it was playing new games every week is what.
I don't think so, because we were doing that before the podcast.
True.
We were playing a new game every week. In fact, it was worse. It was way worse before the podcast because I had to learn the game at a table while everyone else is just talking.
That's true.
It took me like way longer. So I think like organizational wise, I feel like we're a lot better. Now if we're going to play a game on Friday, one of us is going to learn the rules ahead of time and know how to set it up.
Right.
Maybe there will be a little bit of reading, but it won't be to the extent of what we used to do.
Right.
And one complaint was that people didn't have time to socialize. Specifically, my brother said that because he doesn't care about playing a board game. So we changed that too. And so on a Friday night games, we've been getting together on Friday night forever. The way it works is that people come over from 7 to 9-ish. They get to talk. And then at 9 o'clock, we say, hey, we're playing a game. And then the people who don't want to play will either go home, go to work, whatever, or they'll stick around and play.
Yep.
And that's actually been great. I'd highly recommend it. If you're hosting game night every week, the person actually, one good thing is like choose someone to learn the rules to a game. Maybe they have like a month to learn the rules.
Yeah.
And then they come on their month and then they just like show up at 9, shut everything down, everyone plays. And then one of the best things we've done now, instead of playing a new game every week, we're trying to repeat a lot of our plays. And I think that that's actually more of a relaxing way to play.
Yeah.
Instead of playing everything we possibly can. Mind you, our knowledge on board games is like insane, but enjoying them is very small, right?
Yeah, it's been good because like now we're getting through Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. I know we want to finish Clank Legacy,
on the list, yeah.
And then there's a couple games I'm eyeing on my shelf to sprinkle in there every now and then as well. But I can also play games at home too, right? With my wife likes to play board games with me as well, so it's a good mix.
Right.
For me, the organizational side was really, when it comes to the podcast, was like we mentioned earlier, just really focusing on the scripting, not necessarily like word for word, but like writing points down of ideas we wanted to get across, and really trying to record as much as possible where there was as little editing as possible as well for Kevin, right? So he's not spending weeks, a full week doing stuff,
getting rid of our
and I think it's as I'm now going to do it all the time now, and I think that's where we really decided, or where we chose to better ourselves. And I think just how we've been doing game nights has been great. How we've been podcasting has been awesome, and we're a very organized group of individuals.
Yeah, well, we are now.
Yeah.
So you could just hear what went well there. We ended up making game night into like an organized thing where we learn the rules ahead of time, and there's a social hour.
You learn the rules. You pick the topic to talk about. Yeah. You get the snacks.
Well, yeah, we even did that too. We even started. I have like a list of like who's in charge of the snacks. Although I will occasionally go several times more into that than the rest of you, but I have a list.
Now I want that pizza.
Yeah, we were getting pizza every week for a bit too, and then that was getting expensive.
I'll never get sick of pizza.
Yeah, well, not Windsor Pizza.
No.
Room 51. I hope you're listening because ours is better. Not written in. Yeah, and then I guess what we could have improved. I actually think there's nothing really to improve on in the organization of how we did things, other than getting more help.
Yeah, more help, and I think maybe asking for input from the other guys. The
other people. You know what? I'm going to disagree with that because I actually did ask them for input, and they would just keep changing their mind.
Okay.
Yeah. So like asking input from you was different than asking input from them. Like when I'm like, oh, well, how do you want to do it? They would just give me an answer, and then they totally wouldn't do it.
Okay.
Right. But when I ask input for you, you would always follow up on it, which is funny how you're like, I have ADHD. I'm like, I don't see it. I know you do, but I don't see it because you're very true to your word all the time,
Yeah, no, mine's, yeah.
Where Bill does have ADHD, just so you know. So it makes sense why he can never focus.
Yeah.
Poor guy. Anyways, well, that's the organizational side. So how about the social media side? This is the worst and best side of our podcast.
Social media for me, it's been a blast. Like I love doing the Instagram. I mean,
can we press pause for a second?
Yeah.
So we have two main social medias, Twitter and Instagram.
Right.
And TikTok. I guess you could throw TikTok.
I haven't done TikTok in months.
That's fine. But our two bread and butter was Twitter and Instagram. I got stuck with Twitter.
That was on purpose.
You did not want to
Yeah,
do Twitter.
I don't know what even Twitter is.
Well, I didn't know what it was either. I know what it is now.
Yeah.
It is a terrible, terrible place. And I honestly, like, in light of like social media issues countries have had over the last years, I think it should just go.
Yeah.
Just get rid of it. Seriously. Like, you know what? Twitter's garbage. You don't need it. You know what I like about Instagram? You could just post pictures.
Yeah.
Like, it's not really a big deal. You know, like, it's like what Facebook used to be. Right. Facebook used to be just pictures. Now Facebook is kind of like Twitter. It can be.
Social media is garbage, but it's fun at the same time.
Is it fun, though?
Yeah. See, I'll tell you what I like about Instagram.
Okay.
So
all ears.
When we started, okay, yes, I'm not going to convince you anything, but with Instagram and especially with the board game community, it's very consistent on the connection piece of it. So everyone that we have on Instagram that we follow and follow us gives that really great sense of community, and it shows because we went to PAX. Everyone that we met up with, 95% of them were Instagram people, right? And they were so great to meet in person, and it's been been amazing just connecting with them over the last 2.5 years. So when I think about, Professor Meg, Gnarly Carly, when we talk about, Cabaret Studios, we talk to, James Hudson and Room 51.
Hey, Room 51's me, and that's Twitter.
Yeah. But I've been connecting with them over Instagram,
right.
and I message them a lot. I talk to Matthew, Melissa, and Justin on that quite often. And it was fun to see how social media works, right? Like, we started out and we don't have any followers, right?
Yeah, we started with very few followers.
Yeah, and what was cool was, like, when we hit our stride, it was like, okay, we got 1,000 followers. It was like slow. It was like 300, 500, and then it was like 1,000. Like, okay, we can do this. And then it was like 2,000. And I was like, okay, and then it started to slow down a lot, and that's where I kind of, I'll get into it a little bit later. But then, after we got 3,000, I was like, hey, this is exciting, and it was just fun to grow our account, just taking pictures. And then as we progressed through the years, like, our pictures were getting better, our content was getting better, and yeah, so I've got some opinions on the other things, as we go forward. But then I started a TikTok and did some funny videos and all that good stuff. But
yeah,
that TikTok became too much work.
Right. And videos are a lot of work.
Yeah. TikTok's 15-second video, but that 15-second took me probably like an hour to make.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can't do, it's tough to do that every day.
Right. Especially when you have other things to do. You have other obligations in your life.
Right.
So that's tough. Yeah, I mean, like, Twitter was a different thing. I feel like Twitter, you need to be more edgy to get people. The people who are edgy and really commenting on political topics were actually the popular board game content creators, which to me was kind of ridiculous. For me, I felt like, hey, we're about board games. Stick with the board games. Yeah. And then it became like, well, it's an inclusive community. Well, I hate to say it, but board gaming is an inclusive community. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's a loser. Everyone who's in board games was a loser in their life. Like, quote unquote loser. Like, you were probably a back of the class kid, or you
Homer from the car.
Nerd. Exactly. Like, we're not the cool kids in school, right? I'm just putting it out there. And so, like, when I see this and, like, we need to be inclusive in that, and, like, yeah, I totally agree. But at the same time, I'm like, man, I don't want to be involved in any of this because I'm just a white dude. I'm going to get called out. So, and to be honest with you, there's people I like saw a lot of posts. I met some of them, and they're like, I'm not going to say who, but great conversations. But then, like, the next day I go check my Twitter, and I'm like, what is this? Like, I didn't get that from that person.
Right.
I met that person. They're very kind, very nice, fun to talk to. The next day I read their Twitter post. I'm like, well, this is edgy. And then you're like, well, they're just doing that to like basically pull in a crowd.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, you're not being yourself. I like to be myself, right? It's just like, I don't know. I just feel like I always go out of my way to include people. I always try to do that. I don't see the need to, like, preach why I'm amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that
wears on you, dude. That really does wear on you.
It's social media is funny like that, right? Like, there's a lot of people who are who like to hide behind the keyboard, right? And it's easy to portray yourself as one thing, but it's hard to do that when you're in person, right? So like for me, I just like to try to be a genuine person online as well as in person, and I hope, if and when we meet each other in real life that I'm not a surprise, right? Like
Yeah.
you're getting into, right? Like,
Yeah,
I'm John for Friday Night Games.
You're listening to us right now,
Yeah.
or you follow us. You're just gonna get what you get. Like
Yeah.
we're not gonna be like a completely different person. We're gonna be ourselves.
Yeah, I'm pretty chill. And thankfully, like the people that we met at PAX and we played games with and talked to were exactly that. So
Right.
So thank you, Justin and Matthew Millicent from Room 51 for being genuine human beings. We appreciate you.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna miss. Well, we're gonna see you again. Obviously.
Yeah, we're still playing board games.
But we're definitely gonna miss you in the content creation community because we're gone, not you.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna stick around on Instagram, but
Gotcha. The good platform.
yeah.
Hey, if we had switched in the beginning, you'd probably be leaving Twitter, and I would be on Instagram. Although I'm not as engaging as you, I'm kind of like a hide in the back of the class type kid. So
Yeah. Cool.
Oh yeah, so actually Twitter we got up to 2,000 people,
Congratulations.
which is pretty good for Twitter.
Yeah.
I just never could get us in the last 2 months. I could never get us past that, but I never really tried either.
Yeah.
So, but for Twitter, I guess what did I learn? What went well? I think our journey. I think meeting people went really well. Meeting a lot of great people.
Right.
What didn't go so well? Social media in general. What a dumpster fire.
Yeah. So for me, I think went well with Instagram is just the community that was built that we were able to create. Just being able to connect with all the amazing content creators
Right.
on Instagram is humbling. What I think went wrong was, or maybe my mindset with it is not correct, but I feel like I mentioned earlier, that as Canadian content creators, I feel like our reach is limited just due to some sort of algorithm code.
Let me interpret what John's trying to say. Because we are a Canadian-based Twitter account, he feels our reach is not to the American Twitter accounts.
Right.
Which,
And Instagram.
Or Instagram, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm using Twitter because that's what my mindset's in.
Right.
And I actually would agree with that.
Yeah. So for me, what that did as far as my social media story is, like, I would look at content creators that were doing fairly similar content as us, using the same hashtags, doing the same sort of things, posting the same amount a day, the same time of day, et cetera, be like 3,000 one day, 10,000 the next. And it's like, well, what did I do wrong to not get that jump in, right? And
I also want to point out, too, at the same time, there are other Canadian content creators who are all on Instagram, and they actually have less people than us.
Yeah.
So we're like the most popular Canadian content creator group, and that just has to, besides Watch It Played, because obviously Watch It Played, but I think that has a lot to do with that reach.
Yeah, but the problem with that for me was I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to be that 10,000 follower account, and it was stressing me out. And I was like, every day I was like racking my brain, like, what am I not doing right? What do I have to do? What, do I have to buy this new expensive camera? Do I have to like set up this beautiful shot and like spend hours, setting up this shot to take a picture, and then spend hours editing the picture? And it was just like I was putting way too much pressure on myself to take a picture for Instagram, and to see, like, out of the 3,200 people that we have following us, 40 people like it. It's just like, it's disheartening a little bit, right? So I was constantly getting let down by it. And just the moment that I said, you know what, I can't control who follows us. I can't control who engages with our content. I can't control who's going to like our content or comment on it. But what I can control is the content. Right? So it's like, let me just make things that I want to make, take pictures that I want to take, and then if people like it, if people commented on it, that's amazing. And as soon as I let that part of it go, it became enjoyable again for me. So
yeah, like I feel Instagram is actually an enjoyable place. I have my own profile on it, and I do actually like using it. I actually like using it a lot more than Twitter.
Yeah.
And I just feel like Twitter we actually had a pretty good reach on Twitter, but I feel like Twitter, you're always reaching the same people over and over. And one thing I hate about Instagram is that people will basically they will sponsor their post. And I noticed this because I used to go on every day on Instagram, and like I had a bunch of content creators who were friends with you, and I would always like their content just so they know that they feel loved by us. And I don't know, people really cared, but the thing was, I started noticing that some people's content was getting boosted above other people's, and I'm like, so I'm not seeing these other people because I have these people who are boosted above us, and that was getting annoying. So I just stopped using Instagram altogether. I'm like, if I can't like everybody in order by date of post, I don't want to use this platform.
Yeah. So yeah, they changed the algorithm where it's just like people you're interacting with first, or people you're interacting with the most, you'll see their stuff first.
No, this was people clearly paid sponsored. People sponsored their posts.
I don't know.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I'm like, oh, you sponsored your posts, so you went above these other people. I want to see the other people. I want to see all of them.
Yeah.
Where's Emotional Cyborg? I want to like all their stuff. I can't because these people boosted their posts. It made me angry, actually. So sorry, Emotional Cyborg. I actually completely removed myself from Twitter over the last 3 months, or Instagram. Yeah, well, that was a good rant. So overall, if Kevin came to you and was like, "Hey, I want to get into this. I want to get into podcasting. I want to get into board game or maybe it isn't board game. Maybe it's just content creation in general."
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
What advice would I have for someone wanting getting into some sort of content
Sure,
creation?
I would tell them no, but yes, what advice would you tell them?
I would say do your research. I would say make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. So I will use an example. There was, when we were at PAX, there was 2 gentlemen walking around. I don't remember who they were for or who they were with or whatever. But they basically told us, we're just here to get free games.
How did they tell you that?
They said, I'm here to get free games.
They literally said that?
Yes.
Okay.
So their purpose and mission as content creators was to get free games from publishers.
Did it work?
Well, they had a big wagon full of games, so yes. But I mean, if you're going to get into board game content specifically, don't do it with the intention of just getting free merchandise from the publishers. There's a lot of love, a lot of care, design, art, playtesting that
they need money too.
Yeah, the publishers you need to respect the publishers and the people behind the scenes of creating that game more. Yes, getting games is a big bonus and it's amazing, but please support your favorite publishers, please support your favorite designers, etc. Don't do it for free stuff, because you're not going to produce the content that
is needed
needed or worthy of that. I would say, like I said, do your research, like make sure that you follow a specific, format, especially for podcasting. Make sure that you get quick to the point, have a good personality to do it, add humor if that's your thing, but really set the tone early on so that listeners know what they're getting into from episode 1.
Your content can change over time. You can adapt with it. There's nothing wrong with that, but definitely you need to stick with it. Right. If you're like, hey, we're going to do this segment and this is what it's going to be, stick with it. Right. Do it no matter what, even if it sucks. Actually, that's one thing we learned from streaming. We did it for a long time. We did it for like 8-9 months.
Right.
And we just stuck with it.
Yeah.
We're just going to stick with it until we don't want to do it.
Yep. And it was a very simple decision to make.
Right.
I would say be good at networking. So, unfortunately for us, we weren't able to go to a lot of the conventions that we wanted to because of COVID. So if COVID didn't happen, would we be in a different situation right now? Maybe. But get out there, meet people, connect, reach out. If it's not board gaming, if your niche topic, reach out to the people who are popular. Look at the hashtags, look at the topics that they've done, or see the content they're creating. It's okay to get inspired by that kind of stuff too, right? Learn how to take feedback is a big one. Don't let your ego get in the way of creating good content. Right, so you can think you're the best, but there's always someone out there that's doing something better.
Yeah, we're better than you.
Yes, no.
I'm just kidding.
And when people give you feedback, take that and be constructive with it. Learn to adapt yourself so that you're creating the best content you can create.
I think there's 2 aspects of that too. I think you need to do.
Yep.
So you have to just do it. Like don't be afraid of making something unoriginal. Just
Right.
go out there and do it. And then the other part is to make sure that you're always growing.
Right.
Don't get stagnant. And like the ego thing comes in where you're like, oh, I am the best. I don't need to do this. Everyone needs to get better, right? Everyone. And to be honest with you, content creation, board games, everything is an art.
Right.
So art is about criticism and about getting better and what you're doing.
Right. I would engage with everybody. Don't expect people to engage with you if you're not engaging with them.
People are not going to engage with you. I'll tell you that right now. You need to like kind of put yourself out there a little more.
Right.
Maybe you're not that kind of person. If you're not, get someone you know who is to do that for you.
And do it because you love it and you have the time for it. And I mean, if you can figure out a way to monetize podcasting for yourself or videos or Instagram or whatever, do it up. Because, yeah, I mean, obviously people make a living off making Instagram content. So do what you got to do. Just do you. That's my advice.
Yeah, I think you hit all the main points. You know, do it because you want to do it is the main thing I would tell you, and make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, which you kind of went over.
Yeah.
So,
and I would just say, whatever your topic is or whatever your niche is, just support as many people as you can.
Right. Oh, and don't get down on yourself if you're not getting all the followers you can get.
Yeah.
You definitely need to like look at your community. So just as retrospect, I mean, if you're not a board game content creator, you should look at your community. There's not a lot of people in the board game community with a lot of followers. Like even the big name people do not have a lot of followers, to be honest with you. Like if you have 2,000 followers on Twitter, that's amazing. If you have 3,000 to 5,000 followers on Instagram, that's amazing. Don't get down about that. Right. Some people will get way more than that for specific marketing reasons of that person or of their content. Don't let that discourage you. You're your own thing.
Right.
Do what you want to do. Don't do it for fame and fortune. Do it because you like doing it.
Right.
And that's actually something John and I both learned. I didn't know I liked photography as much as I did.
There you go.
I actually really like photography. I'm actually pretty good at it. I would never have known that had I not had to pick up a camera for streaming.
Awesome. Cool.
Well, on that note, what's our favorite things we did podcasting, John? What are some of our favorite? This is not even on our script. See, I totally went against our script here. I think the Halloween episode.
I really like the Nightmare episode just because Nightmare's such a ridiculous game.
You know what's crazy?
Just, like, funny.
Well, the Nightmare thing, I don't even know if I said this, but the big shout out to the Nightmare people. They actually reached out to us and wanted us to promote their game on our podcast, but I didn't even see the message for some reason. I think I was away. And they're like, I'm like, well, we are like, they didn't understand that we record like 2 weeks in advance. So I don't think so I'm like, oh yeah, I'll promote it, but it's kind of too late to put on your podcast. They wanted to do it like for Halloween. So they had already had the Kickstarter out, I think.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, man, you guys should have contacted us way ahead of time. Should have sent us a game. We would have made a thing of it. It would have been hilarious, but whatever. What are you going to do?
All good.
That was fun.
Yeah. My favorite thing, I don't know. I think just doing this was good. Like a couple years ago.
That's such a cop-out answer. Give me a real answer.
I'm getting to the real answer. Jesus Christ. You.
There's the real reason. Screw you, man.
No, so a couple years ago, like I know this within myself that I have a hard time sticking with something. I have a lot of hobbies, so like I play guitar, I draw, I play board games, comic books, and I get to a certain point where it's just like it gets I don't know if overwhelming is the word, but I just get like maybe stagnant with it, and I get bored very easily. So one of my quote unquote New Year's resolutions was to focus, and this podcast and the content creation was what I put my energy and focus into. And, it's been almost 3 years, 2.5 years, 3 years doing it. So that's why I think like the whole process was enjoyable and good for me. So
what were some of your best moments? So Nightmare.
Yeah, Nightmare was fun. I think when we did the stocking stuffer video.
Yeah, that was good.
And that opened up a relationship with Pandasaurus Games, I think.
By the way, we really appreciate Pandasaurus Games.
Yes.
They were very good to us.
Yes, Danny at Pandasaurus Games is amazing at the marketing for that company, and she does such a wonderful job with Pandasaurus Games that we're very grateful for all the opportunities that she gave us to create content on our podcast and social media. And I think doing that video was a very good thing we did at the right time in our career. I wish that we were able to create more content like that more consistently.
We did do. So I liked that video, but I actually liked the game advertisement video way more. I thought that was, but like that was a very high point in our video.
Yeah. The only thing with that video I didn't like was like the where we explained how to play the game. I felt like that dragged on a little bit too long.
We could have been better.
Could
Yeah.
have been better at that, but like like explosions and the office style interview we did.
Hilarious dialogue. Yeah.
was funny. So
Yeah, I feel like we're very good at making that comedic team.
yeah.
Maybe that's what we should do. We should just turn into like comedic videos.
Sure.
Matt and John, two white dudes, make two generic comedy videos.
We're just two guys and we're having a good time. Having a good time. Having a good time.
We'll ask them if we can rip off their theme. Yeah. I think that was a funny video. It was a great idea you had, and then again, we wrote that together.
Right.
So what you heard was not John or was not me. It was both of us together writing that comedy, and it was good to have someone to bounce the ideas off of, because that's what made it really funny.
Yeah.
And then we did the same thing with the game video. We did the exact same thing. Yeah.
Video's just hard to do, man.
It's a lot of work. We spent like 30 hours editing those things, if I remember correctly.
But I feel like it. Yeah. Anyway,
We could have made it easier, but
we could do it faster now.
Yeah, we're also perfectionists.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, best podcast moments. I like the times when I have an aha moment, and you usually refer to it as Matt's turning this into a psychology podcast, and that's because I have like in the middle of talking to someone, I'm like, whoa, I just had this epiphany, and I'm like, dude, this is an ego thing, or this is a time wasting thing, or this is a mental health thing. I think all those episodes that we had those types of themes that were involved were fantastic, and really in my mind opened up like the talking of it. I don't know if people really like talking about that. People like mentioning it. Oh, I got mental health issues, but who's gonna have a full podcast on it? Who's gonna talk about their personal life problems? And that was actually with Dad Without a Dad, which was super cool to have him on the show. I don't even know how he became a fan of us, but it was super cool to have him on the show.
Yeah.
And super cool to do work with him too. So
yeah,
those are my favorite things.
Yeah,
Psychology.
And I like all the collaborative things we did as well. So I know we were on Room 51's podcast. They were on ours.
Last Game Standing.
All
that was
the two
pretty
ones
gold.
we did. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Oh, and the What You Been Playing Wednesdays.
Oh, yeah. You know, that's one thing that really came out of this as really well. And honestly, I think that came out of the same issues that we have with growing. A lot of the other Canadian content creators had the same problems.
Right.
And so we just all sort of like, hey, let's just make a podcast together. And it was Bridge City Board Gamers who kind of did the What You've Been Playing Wednesdays. And it was like, this is a great idea. Yes, we should all be involved because it'll make us bigger.
Mm-hmm.
But not everyone had the time. You know, I think everyone's kind of focusing on themselves. I think there's like a bigger picture there with the fact that we should all be like kind of like together, like a Dice Tower network, and kind of creating content that way. I think there's actually that there. But then everyone's kind of like, well, I'm independent. I want to be independent. But at the same time, it's like we probably would be bigger if we did something like that because we'd have way more content to produce.
Right.
But then again, podcasts are going to wayside, right? Dice Tower's jumping out of it now.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
We digress.
I'm glad we're involved with that though, and
Yes.
we'll still be on that from time to time.
Yeah. So awesome. So I guess this is it.
This is it.
This is it. I feel like the last episode of Frasier or something, you know, like, and I'm signing off for the last time, blah, blah, blah.
Is that what he said on the
I don't know. I should have prepared that a little bit better.
Yeah, we probably should have, but we didn't. And that's okay.
Yeah. So I'll still be on Instagram. Matt's going to throw Twitter in the Detroit River.
It's gone. It's gone. I'm turning it off right now. Our account's still active. Say some funny things to us.
These podcasts will still be hosted, so you can always listen back to it. And we sincerely appreciate everybody that's been listening to us, following us, along with us for the adventures that we've had. So, Matt, thank you for doing this with me.
Hey, John, thank you for doing this to me, too. And I just want to really thank our listeners.
Yeah.
Hey, shout us out on anything. If you listen to this, shout us out on anything, because, you know, you listening means a lot to us and where we came from. We started, just so everyone knows, we started with like 2 listeners.
Yeah.
You know, and then we ended up with like probably 100 to 200 listeners per podcast. And that took a lot of effort.
Yeah.
So we appreciate every single one of you who listens every week or binge listens, once in a while. And we think that, and even if you're binge listening and we're done, like, shout us out, man.
Yeah.
Let us know. Like, give us a huge shout out. We'll show back. Like,
Yeah.
we're not that big. Like, we will talk back
Yeah.
in a good way.
So
we appreciate you.
yes. So have fun playing board games. Be nice to each other. And yeah, I guess I'm John.
Well, I'm Matt.
And we're Friday Night Games.
We were.
We're Friday Night Games. So, it's Friday night. Let's have some fun. And we'll see you at some conventions probably, maybe.
Maybe. If not, just follow John on Instagram.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. We love you. Good night.
Bye.